Hello, and welcome to the stream. Let's make sure everything is good to go first before we jump right into what we're going to talk about. And you can see it's already loaded up on the screen. Okay, very good. Let's get Rumble going here. All right, cheers. Happy Saturday. Let's get you some coffee. I drink Death Wish coffee, or I drink Black Rifle. So if that interests you, then you should get some of that as well. If not, then yeah, do whatever you're doing. But hello, welcome to the stream. My name is Aaron Mashbitz. If you've never been to my stream before, I am a podcaster. I host the Something for Everybody podcast, and we're very close to crossing 1 million audio plays and downloads. So that's really cool. And I started doing some more streaming stuff on Twitch and X and Rumble and YouTube, or wherever you're watching this right now. And so today I got a video loaded up. It's titled "One Traditional Wife versus 8 Feminists." It's like a sort of a debate, common ground type thing. Haven't watched it. Don't know who's involved in it. Just got caught by the title. So hopefully it's interesting, and I'll react and add some commentary throughout. And so for context about sort of traditional wife versus feminists, I am married. I've been married for a little over a year now. I also have a 4-month-old son. So I do love my wife, and I love my son. And I'm really, really a big proponent of family, the strong family nuclear unit. I'm a big proponent of, strong masculine men and things of that nature. But we'll see where this conversation goes, and where the debates go, and maybe where they find common ground, where they disagree, and all that good stuff based on just the title that I saw. And it's obviously put on by Hype House, which you can see on the screen right there. So let's jump in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hype House channel. Today we have a new series called Common Ground. For the first episode of Common Ground, we have one traditional wife versus 8 feminists. Our traditional wife is Savanna Stone, and then we brought in 8 feminists who completely disagree with her on most of her claims. We're going to see if they can get through contentious conversation and still find some sort of common ground, or at least shake each other's hand at the end of the day and understand where that person's coming from. But first, we got to get to know Savanna and why she believes what she does, and then also the 8 feminists and see where they're coming from.
Right off the bat, we get a
teammate. I need your support.
There we go.
Hello, I'm Savanna Faith Stone. I'm a social media influencer. I mainly focus on the topics of feminism, femininity, marriage, current culture. I've been doing social media for like 6 months now, and it completely took off. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and to debate some feminists.
I've seen Savanna a few places, but not super familiar with her work or what she talks about or anything like that. Just right off the bat, looking at her, she obviously has a fake tan. I know that because I used to be a professional wrestler, and you can tell a fake tan from a mile away. So cheers to her. A lot of women like getting fake tans. She also has a shitload of makeup on, if that's her style. If her husband also likes that, cool for her. I think my wife looks unbelievably incredible without makeup, and when she does a little bit of makeup, she looks amazing as well. But I think my wife is the most attractive when she doesn't have any makeup on. But again, don't know Savanna, seen her a few places around the internet. I'm not sure you can consider yourself that traditional if you're a social media influencer. I don't consider that traditional, but maybe she can square that circle for me as we move on in the conversation. But here we go.
Have you been like this your whole life, or was there a moment that pushed you in the direction?
I grew up in a more conservative household, but I would say throughout high school, I didn't really know where I leaned politically. And then COVID happened, and immediately I was like, this is a complete joke. And from then on, I kind of went down the rabbit hole. And then once I got married, because I got married at 18, which is now considered young in our society, I got so much backlash for it on the internet. And so that took me kind of down the modern feminism rabbit hole. And, why are young women getting slandered? Because they want to get married and have kids and have a traditional lifestyle. So that's what took me on my journey. Are
you excited, or do you feel like you're going to do really well? Are you nervous about anything? Nothing?
I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good conversation. It's different than social media. Obviously, when people are messaging you or they're commenting, there's no way to have a one-on-one conversation, and people will straw man you all the time. So I'm excited to just sit down in person and talk and maybe shift some perspectives as well.
Hi, I'm Nefarious, and I'm a feminist because I believe men and women should all have the same opportunities. I think I'm surrounded by a lot of like-minded people most of the time.
Her name is Nefarious? Is that like legit? Or like what the fuck does that mean? And men and women do have equal opportunities. Yeah, anyways.
But I really enjoy having like long discussions about topics that might be controversial.
Hi, I'm Charlize True. I am a senior at UCLA. I'm a gender studies major, and this year I decided to compete in the Miss America pageant. So I studied all global politics for about 8 months, left and right, and had to come down the center to the middle. And it's made me realize what a big impact social media has on the next generation of women and how together we can change that.
I'm Natalie, and I consider myself a feminist because I come from a family of very strong women. I think being able to disagree with people is extremely important. I think if you are looking to gain a better perspective on the world and even strengthen your own standpoint, it's really important to be able to hear how other people feel, even if it's completely different from your own.
Hi, I'm Zena, and I'm a feminist because I believe that there's a large gap in the treatment between women and men in this country that has been overlooked for centuries and centuries, despite the fact that we've had massive change come from movements like feminism. I think these conversations are.
Like, is there still a massive discrepancy between men and women in our society? I mean, I don't think so. Any person can wake up in the world and do literally whatever they want. Now, are we more inclined biologically, environmentally, evolutionarily to lean in certain directions when it comes to our nature and who we are and what we're more inclined to do? Sure, but a woman can wake up tomorrow and go work in the oil fields if she wants. I watch Landman every week, and there's very few of them out there, but they have the opportunity, they have the ability, they have the choice to do so. Do they do that frequently? Absolutely not, because why would they choose to do that? It's really hard, grueling work. And so I never really get I don't really understand. Hopefully she can explain it when she gets into the argument with Savanna about why she thinks, or where's the discrepancy between men and women and how they're not treated equally in our society today. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I mean, women are graduating college more frequently than men. They're making more money. So the wage gap thing has kind of been removed from as a debate topic. Some people still use it. So it's interesting to see that point of view, but I'd love to hear it be expressed in a way that maybe doesn't change my point, but gives me some more context about why she thinks men and women are treated differently.
Are necessary so that people are aware of sometimes seemingly invisible differences between this treatment.
I'm Angela Mazzanti. I am a content creator. I own a pro-female brand, and I am a dominatrix. So I feel like I have a very, very interesting
Of course you're a fucking dominatrix. Of course. Absolutely. Naturally.
opinion when it comes to the dynamics between men and women. That's why I'm a feminist.
Hi, my name is Sophia Grace. I am a musician and an artist, and I'm a feminist because I believe everyone's existence is inherently political. I've been a feminist for basically my whole life because I was
Everyone's existence is inherently political. I don't know what that means, but cool. Nice statement.
always surrounded by strong, independent women.
Hi, my name is Carly, and I'm a feminist because I believe in basic human rights, empathy, compassion. Wild, I know. And I think it's kind of insane to be against those things in today's day and age.
Hi, my name's Amy, and I'm a feminist because a lot of the women that I care.
It's actually interesting to make that claim of compassion and kindness because it's making the assumption that those who aren't feminists don't believe in kindness, don't believe in compassion, which is totally, completely wrong, right? Most people that I know who are moral and try to live ethical lives and try to be, in service to the world, want to be compassionate, want to be kind, want to be understanding, but also with the same regard has to be sort of rooted in what's true and what's reality and what's right. And so I always think it's funny, like this sort of moral posturing, like I believe in compassion, so that's why I'm a feminist. And if you don't believe in compassion, obviously you're not going to be a feminist, or obviously you're not as morally right as me. And maybe she didn't mean it that way, but that's how it sounds when you display like, I'm only doing this because I'm a good person. And like, that's just a weird sort of vibe for me that I just don't really understand
About, and I have also experienced negative experiences that made us realize that being a woman puts us at a disadvantage in this day and age. So I believe that.
Man, cut off at the perfect time.
Women should be treated equally.
Did she say that being a woman puts you at a disadvantage these days? Why would you assume that? Why would you put yourself in that sort of victim mentality? Like, because I'm a woman, I'm already, predetermined to be disadvantaged, which is ultimately not true. And we have to get out of this sort of victim mentality for all people in the world. Human beings are born with agency. Yes, some people are born in tougher spots than others. Wholeheartedly agree. I say this all the time, but I'm the luckiest person in the world because I got born to the parents that I have. Some people aren't that lucky. I totally understand that. It makes sense. But regardless of that, we have agency, we have choice, we have power over our decisions. And if we're just inherently claiming that it's woe is me, I'm a victim, then we're never going to be able to build ourselves up out of the situation that we're currently in to see a better vision and future for our life. And maybe we need a role model or someone to believe in us because of that. And that can be challenging and hard to find if you don't have that in your life. But like, those are important pieces. But if you just no matter what situation you're in, you see yourself as the victim, of course, everything sucks and everything is wrong, but that's just not the way to live or be happy or be fulfilled or have meaning or whatever the case may be.
My first claim is that feminism is anti-woman and makes them unhappy. Savannah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I know your claim is feminist is anti-women, but I want to explain the other side of it and how really feminist is expanding women's choices, whether this is over their body or their jobs. Because of the feminist movement, we now have the opportunity to vote, to open a bank account, to have a house, to get a car. And also, I know you do social media as well. It's also given us a platform back in the day when they didn't have a voice, women. Now with social media, everyone can state their opinion. So I think it's entirely for women. And I don't think it's just for women. I actually think it's for the benefit of everyone.
Interesting. So anti-woman to me would be the natural processes that happen for a woman, meaning marriage and motherhood, feminism completely rejects. And it actually praises women who try to belittle men. It kind of created this idea that we are actually valuable if we're more like men rather than women. So I don't think it actually celebrates the differences between men and women. Would you agree with that or disagree?
I would disagree. Coming from my perspective, I've worked my entire life since I was 16. I was raised by a single mom of 3, but I did have two really dominant male figures in my life, my dad and my brother. And when I explain topics like this to them, even people online and in the world, I still think marriage and children is an asset to being a woman. It's not taking away our femininity at all. I think feminism is celebrating that.
So when we go back to the beginning of feminism, right? All of the early feminists, if we're talking about Mary Wollstonecraft, Gloria Steinem, Simone de Beauvoir, however you say her last name, they were all very anti-family. So they believed that the feminism movement, it would never reach its peak until women decided to completely leave the home. There was actually an article, it's Sex, Society, and the Feminine Movement by Simone de Beauvoir. It's a very famous quote in 1904. She basically wrote that, and I'm paraphrasing here because it's pretty long, that feminism would never succeed until women didn't have the choice to stay home. So it was very anti-choice, actually. She said that society should be that women go to work and so they can't stay home. And the reason she said that is because if women had the choice, they would almost always choose staying home over going to work. So that's my point about it being anti-woman, is it's never been about choice, contrary to what people believe.
I definitely take what you're saying into account. All the authors you stated, we study in class as a gender studies major. And if you talk to any of these girls or boys in the class, they are very opinionated and knowledgeable about other authors. And I want to bring into account to this theory of feminist, Judith Butler. She has this article about doing gender and how in order for women to even start the feminist movement, they had to conform to some part of society. It's it felt like a game in a way. In order to get into the rooms to make the choice for women to have the choices they do today, they had to play into it in some sense. So I do see your side of it, but I think to stay in the middle, like, I don't think your opinion is wrong or my opinion is wrong. I just think we may have different.
I mean, this woman is just like really nice. She's just like really nice. She's trying to toe the line. She's like sort of agreeing and sort of disagreeing. She's like sort of referencing some stuff that she learned in school, but she doesn't want to be too combative or mean, or and she certainly does not want to agree with anything that Savanna has to say, because then it would make her not a feminist for some reason. And you know, Savanna made the point at the beginning that it's like, you know, the best thing for women is to become more like men, and then that sort of transferred, because I care a lot about men, and I work with a lot of men and athletes, and you know, I do a lot of podcast episodes about men. It's like, so if women are supposed to be like, their best asset is to be more like men, then men's best asset is like trying to become more like trying to become more like women. And so now men are just like these hairy, misbehaving women, and women are turning into men. And this is like not how society is supposed to run. We do have a biological nature. We do have sort of idiosyncrasies that lean us towards certain things. Of course, this is a generalization. Of course, there are outliers in every situation. Of course, there are, like I mentioned, the oil fields, not a lot of women in the oil fields, even though they have the choice to go and do that fucking job whenever they want. And so, yes, choice is important. We want to have agency and autonomy over our bodies. But there is going to be a certain direction your biology leans that is more inclined and suited for your happiness. Like, women shouldn't try and act like more like men. And men are not hairy, misbehaving women. They're fucking men. And that's an important vibe. But this woman is just trying to be really charitable, really nice. I appreciate that, but it's not like, it doesn't really add to a productive conversation. I'm not saying she should be fucking mean. Of course not. But she should really stake her claims and commit to those.
Different upbringings, or like just the way we see women as a whole. And to that, because of this stereotype from the authors you brought in, you said like they're man-hating, and like, especially when you say like, oh, I'm a feminist, people are like, oh God. But I think we need to reshape the way people see feminists. And I think just like you do on your platform and I do on my social media, like, that's changing the way people view women. And I think that's a positive thing.
But I think going back to the claim, right, that feminism is inherently anti-woman, how are you refuting that claim based on what I've given you?
Yeah, I don't think any of those authors were ever anti-women. I think, again, it's just expanding. Feminism is expanding what women could be and where they could go.
Yeah, but when you're saying things like feminism will never reach its peak until the nuclear family is destroyed, you're not pro-woman, because you're not giving them the choice. You're saying that.
Yeah, the nuclear family is fucking awesome. I'll tell you that. The best thing that ever happened to me was meeting my wife. And the next best thing that ever happened to me was, you know, having my son, and watching my wife do that, and trying to navigate these waters as parents, and, you know, running a business, and, you know, all this type of stuff, and also maintaining intimacy. It's like, you know, it's a vibe. It's hard. That's pro-woman, I think, you know, encouraging the most fulfilling and meaningful lives. As Dr. Jordan Peterson says, right? You don't know responsibility until you have kids. Now, maybe having kids is not for everyone. I'm not here to push that on anyone, but I am here to share the experience that I've had and my wife and I have had, and that having kids is unfucking believable. Yeah, it's hard. It's frustrating. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? We're raising a human into the world to try and be the best he can possibly be. But it's also, it's amazing. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. So, yeah.
If you stay home, we don't want you to stay home. We want you to go to work. Otherwise, you don't have any value. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm saying it's inherently anti-woman. If it was actually about choice, and I think you see it very apparent in culture today, like the trad wives are completely under attack. We take ballerina farm slander, for example. Like, feminists, I have not met a feminist that is not against the trad wives on the internet, right? So if we look at it in that way, and they'll say, you know, it's all about equality, it's all about choice, but then they will directly attack stay-at-home wives and mothers and women who choose a different lifestyle.
Again, I think that's due to people not being knowledgeable about it at all. Like, people who go online and troll people like us, or your opinion or my opinion, like, they don't have knowledge about everything in the world. It's just like,
People who troll are just projecting their insecurities and on anyone else. Like it's just rage bait content. Sometimes it's good because they're going to get clicks and views from the rage bait, sort of hating on the trad wife or hating on the feminist or like whatever. Those are going to get clicks and views. But if you live in a stance of like how I live my life is the only good way to live life, then you have unearned moral virtue, because it's obviously not true. Every human being in the world is flawed, and we've made bad choices and we've done bad things, and there's no perfect person and no perfect way to live, right? You can lean towards a more moral and ethical life. Sure, absolutely. You can make good choices and bring light into the world. But anytime you claim that the way you live your life is the only way that's good, that's virtue signaling, and it's no good, and it doesn't work.
What they were raised into and like how they think it should be. So fighting against any sort of system is going to be hard, and it's not going to all be happy. But I think the benefit of fighting for women's rights, and even I'm in film, so I always go back to film and social media and how that representation is changing the way young girls are seeing themselves. I don't think it makes them unhappy. If anything, it makes me happier to be able to give these women a voice and lift them up. And again, I think we have two completely different opinions, and there's people on the internet that will fully agree with you and fully disagree with everything I'm saying.
With Portal Polygraph, you can fix AI hallucinations in a...
Yeah, so there's something called the female happiness paradox, right? Where it's the fact that as women, we have more freedom than ever in today's society, but we're more unhappy than ever. We're committing suicide at higher rates. We're popping more pills than ever. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because now we have all this freedom, but we're less happy.
But I think, once again, going back to the power that is of social media, because of the rise of depression and anxiety and suicide, this week at school, at UCLA, there was a girl in our class that passed away and committed suicide. And I don't think this is...
I just want to make a statement here. Not that these girls have done anything wrong, but since in my life, I have been personally affected by suicide. I lost my big sister, Rachel, to suicide in 2018. And the language we use surrounding suicide is extremely important. And so I'm not going to police your language. That's just not what I'm doing. You're allowed to say and feel and do whatever you please. I just prefer, when I'm talking about it, to use died by suicide, because there is a sort of negative connotation with the word committed. Now, there are tons of people who are doctors and psychologists. For example, I mentioned Dr. Jordan Peterson. He still uses the phrase committed suicide. So it's not like it's a wrong term. I'm just stating why I believe that died by suicide for me personally feels better, especially when talking about my sister, because she didn't commit a crime. She wasn't selfish. None of those things are true about her. And again, you can use whatever language you feel necessary for you and how you want to describe the situation. I just thought I'd mention that as it was brought up here. But in our society right now, men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. Everyone is dealing with mental health issues. Everyone deals with mental health every single day. It's how you think, feel, and act in this world. And of course, it's a very serious thing. If you listen to my podcast, which is called Something for Everybody on all major podcast platforms, about 85% of my episodes surround mindset and mental health. And it's a very serious issue, but it is deeply affecting men. Again, they are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. But suicide is very serious, and there should be a collective cultural movement to try and be more proactive about our mental health and about suicide prevention in general.
Is entirely to do with the feminist movement. I think this is cultural norms, political norms, and it does go back to our phones, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the power we both have to have our voice online is going to make women happier at the end of the day.
I disagree, because we've gotten more unhappy as time has gone on. And you can look from the 1950s until now. It's pretty tragic. But feminism has a lot to do with the progression of our society and progressivism. And it's been the most sweeping movement in any political movement. It's been the one that's moved the quickest and made the most progress in the shortest amount of time. And I'm sure you've seen the GSS study about the fact that married women with children are the happiest women in society. Mm-hmm. And feminism, being very anti-woman, like I said, has told women that that's not the most important thing. And so if women are deliberately choosing, okay, well, feminism is telling me not to get married and not to have children, I'm not going to do that. Well, then they're automatically putting themselves at risk for that unhappiness.
I also think the unhappiness has to do with like in the internet, in the digital age, we're not supposed to have this many opinions. Like back in the day when you're saying women were happier, it's because there were fewer things for them to look for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree that there's a lot of different factors, right, to depression and suicide. And I would agree that social media is a big part of that. But when we're looking at the progressivism in women and in feminism, that is a big contributor to the unhappiness in women. They have way more societal pressures. I mean, like, I think debt is a huge reason that women are unhappy. It's a huge stressor to them. I think it keeps them away from their femininity. And women are, turning 18 and going into 6 figures of debt to go to school.
For school.
Yeah, to go to school, if they choose to go to school, right? So, and that puts a lot of stress on them as well. So I think feminism has created a lot of these societal pressures that are on women. And to add to the fact, we can add in the economy as well. But the whole idea of taking women out of the home was to double tax the households. So because expenses have gone up and because the economy has gone wild, it forces women into the workplace, even though 74% of women would rather be stay-at-home wives and moms than have a career. And this is not Christian women, this is not conservative women, this is just general population of women.
They would rather be, but I do believe,
this initial, if you want to call it a debate, is really like Savanna Stone coming with a bunch of pretty solid facts on her side. Didn't fact check them. Don't know if they're 100% true. Couldn't tell you, but they seem legit. And this woman trying to just like walk on a fucking balance beam and make sure she doesn't fall off, that she sort of makes the feminists happy and makes the traditional people happy. And it's like, so it doesn't lead to sort of a great conversation because she's not standing on any firm ground. She's just like saying, I think, and like, maybe I believe in this, and like people just aren't knowledgeable enough. And I think everyone has an opinion, but then there's too many opinions. It's like, holy fuck.
To account, like, we wouldn't be in the position we are today if it wasn't for those feminist women pushing forward the agenda for us to even like be able to, you can have your own bank account, you can have your own income even through social media, even though like I don't know that much of like your background and like your views on that, but like it is still, it's not anti-women.
Do you guys feel like you found any common ground?
I feel like we did, yeah.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I don't think you're wrong at any level. So I think this conversation is needed because people are gonna agree.
If she's not wrong, then you certainly agree. If she's not wrong, then you agree with the claim. So it's a
agree and disagree with both sides of us.
Thank you. It's a great conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, so I heard your take. You think feminism makes women unhappy and is anti-women?
Yes.
What does feminism mean to you? Like, how would you define feminism?
Feminism was a very quick political movement that was orchestrated by radical revolutionaries that wanted to create this sort of society where women were above men, so sort of a matriarchy. I also believe that it was a part of Operation Mockingbird, that's actually a fact. So it was this big movement that was orchestrated in order to kind of create chaos in America and destroy the nuclear family.
Well, how would you describe modern feminism?
We're on like wave 5 of feminism now. So I would just say it's just become more and more progressive. I think it's pretty much the same as the first wave of feminism, but as society has developed, obviously it's just become more progressive.
Maybe we have different definitions. For me, I feel like feminism is the push for equality between men and women, like equal opportunity. So let's say like, you want to go for a job, you want to go for you have a certain dream. If you have the skills to achieve that dream, you can achieve it. Like there's no block just because you're a woman.
Where do you feel like women and men are not equal?
There's no block. What's the block? I want to hear the answer to the question, but
I think there's a lot of physical differences. Let's say you had to like run 10 miles with a 100-pound backpack. I feel like your average woman would be a lot less likely to be able to do that.
So when we're talking about equality, what would change that? Because those are biological differences, right? Like we can't change that.
But that's what I'm saying. For things that we have the same skill, like we have the same, I don't know, let's say you're really good at math. You can go and become a mathematician at the same place. I'm talking more so just like general skills. If you have the same exact skills as a man in a certain field, you can go do and achieve the same things.
So are you saying that you can't do that in today's society?
No, I think you can, and I think feminism is, at least I think today, feminism is all about maintaining these equalities.
So would you want women to be drafted?
I think that you know, I don't want to go to war, but I think if it was to happen, I think that I should be drafted as much as a man should be drafted. And I'm anti-war. I don't want to go to war. Like,
Yeah, you wouldn't be okay with that, right? Most women wouldn't.
I think
Nobody wants to fucking go to war. Well, there are some men who do want to go to war. But like I said, like the oil fields is a prime example. A mathematician, any woman could be a mathematician. What do you like? There's always going to be biological differences, and so they're rated on a different scale. That's obviously why there's men and women separately in sports, obviously, and that's why that goes into the trans debate is kind of moronic. But like they're equal opportunity. Everyone should have equal opportunity. That's the whole sort of should be the vibe of society. It's based on merit. It's based on effort. It's based on your skill level. It's based on the things you earn, right? So everyone has the opportunity to go achieve the thing they want to achieve in this world. And also, it's time to pour some more coffee. Let's go, baby. We're rocking and rolling. So I guess she does agree that men and women have equal opportunity, which is cool. So I'm not really sure what she's arguing for. I guess what she said is to maintain this in society now so it doesn't revert back to when they didn't have equal opportunity, I guess.
it's not an ideal situation where anyone has to be drafted, but I think everyone should be if it becomes necessary. I think it's part of that's a difficult thing because I don't really want to talk about war in this scenario, because if you're drafted for the war, I think that if you have a skill set, like if you're able to do tasks that aren't men have a better time with like hard labor, I think. And I think if women got drafted, they should be put into tasks that they're able to do. If we're all being treated as equals, also have equal things happen to them that are maybe not as good.
So would that be the ideal society for you? Like we are completely equal, meaning that women also get drafted?
Yes.
Really? You're the first person I've heard say that. Interesting. So that would be like peak feminism to you.
Yeah, I think equality in all terms of it. I don't think you can pick and choose if you want to be equal.
Hey, kudos to that woman. Like she's consistent. Like she said it, I want equality. And then you go to the far sort of extreme is like, you want to be drafted for war? She said yes. Kudos to her. That's someone who's like consistent in their beliefs, and you can absolutely respect that no matter what. So cheers to her.
Cool. But I also feel like there's so many things like that we're still not necessarily like equal in. I think there's a lot of like subconscious biases that people have, even though we are like working our way up in terms of like equality. If we want to move to the point where like where you say that feminism makes women unhappy, I do hear where you're coming from in that, but I think a lot of people focus on the negatives in today's day and age, and I think that goes for every sort of bad thing that's happening at the moment. It's people focus on it and they make it their entire life's purpose to only focus on the bad, in which I think that caring about all these negative things is super important because that's what makes a change and makes a difference. But I do think a lot of people are kind of like swimming in all the terrible things that are happening without focusing on any of the good.
So how does feminism make women happy?
I think feminism gives people the opportunity to dream and to be able to achieve those dreams.
So I think that if we were truly equal, meaning women also got drafted and had to do the exact same things as men, we'd see the happiness rate go down even more than it already is. Would you agree?
I think nobody would be happy if they were drafted. Or I think that women having all the same opportunities.
I mean, you have back-to-back women, and maybe it's going to happen with all the women that are on this fucking debate thing, is like all they care about, all they think that feminism is the ability to have choice, because back in the day, women didn't have choice. And they mentioned it, bank account, voting, rights, all that type of stuff. They have it now. So what's the choice? And then some people bring up abortion. Some people bring up, getting drafted. It's like those comparable, whatever the case may be. Do men have full autonomy over their bodies? No, they get drafted into war. And so it seems to be that feminism is only about choice. And I do think that you have choice. Everyone has choice. we have choice to kind of do whatever we want in this world. Yeah, it may take effort and hard work and determination and resiliency and merit and effort and all those types of things, but doesn't mean it's not possible. And so I'm not really sure what the claim is.
Is going to make women happier. I don't think being drafted is I feel like that's a very small part of the talk of feminism.
Right. But you're saying that if we were equal, truly equal, that would make women happy. But I'm saying that with all the progress we've made and the fact that women have more freedom than ever in today's society, we are significantly unhappier than we've ever been. And I don't think any woman would be happy if we had to be drafted. I think that there would be protests on the streets. I think even the radical feminists would be protesting against getting drafted. So when we're talking about equality, which means the same, I don't think feminism actually wants equality. I don't think it's ever been about equality, frankly. But back to the original claim that feminism is anti-woman and makes women unhappy. How would you refute that?
I think that feminism is for the equality of women between men, same opportunities. And I think it makes women happy because you are able to do the things you've always wanted to do and you don't have that limitation. Because think about the New York City Marathon that just happened. Women weren't allowed to race it. And now we have the opportunity to run the marathon. And it's the little things. I think feminism is.
I think as you get older, you do tend to have trouble with sleep. You have trouble with energy.
Is making people. My roommate just ran the marathon. She killed it. I saw her. She was so happy, and she wouldn't have had that if feminism hadn't let her run the marathon.
So human rights have varied all throughout history, right? Like men weren't even able to vote. I mean, that much long before women. So yeah, that naturally happens with the progression of society. But who do you think let feminism happen in the first place?
That's because women weren't allowed to. That's a completely
Well, you're not to interrupt, but you're saying that your friend was able to run this marathon because of feminism. But who do you think allowed feminism?
I feel like you're trying to have me say men allowed it.
That's correct. Yeah.
But that's because they were in power. That doesn't mean it's okay.
It's not okay for men to be in power, or what,
no,
what do you
it's
think?
not okay for men to be the only people in power, and for women to break into power, they have to. I guess men would have to allow women to break into that area, and women protested on the streets. It was people have been fighting for this for so long to be able to be on the same level.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot we can unpack here. There's a very small minority of women that actually wanted suffrage, that actually wanted the feminist movement. There's actually a survey in Massachusetts, around 1950s-ish, whenever the suffrage movement was being passed. And out of the 595,000 women that were eligible to vote, only 4% wanted the suffrage movement. So yeah, in history, we see women fought so hard. But in reality, when you go back, they had an entire list of 10 reasons why they didn't want women to vote. There were actually more anti-suffrage movements than there were pro-suffrage movements.
How would you say that your life has been negatively impacted by feminism?
You know, I mean, not me personally at this time in my life, but I would say early on when I got married, actually, I at this time in my life, I'm slandered online for being married super young, right? For no reason. And that's the whole point of me saying that feminism is very anti-woman, because they will say it's all about choice, it's all about equality, but then they will slander you if you choose a different way, or if you're a conservative woman, or if you're pro-life. Most of them also don't like you and they will disagree with you. So it's not for every woman. It's only for certain women that agree with that ideology. I would also say that because of the two-income household thing, that's really unfortunate, and the taxing and all of that, having to be being able to be in debt and credit card debt, I don't really like that. So I would say more so culturally, I'm more affected by it as far as the anti-woman narrative.
That makes sense to me. I feel like it's awful to be slandered online. That must hurt. I feel like I've been there in certain different scenarios, but I felt that it's a cruel place. But also let's say talk about debt and everything. I feel like if you have a good head on your shoulders, you're not going to go into debt, and it happens. But I think it's all about who you're surrounded with.
Well, you can have a great head on your shoulders and still at 18 have the pressure to go into 6 figures of debt for school, because you're told that, as a woman, you're nothing if you don't have your career. because of feminism. And so that's a huge issue as well. Women are being pressured to go into debt. And then, most people don't get to pay off their student loans until they're in their 50s and 60s, which is insane to me.
I mean, student debt is awful. Like, I agree. But I also think that America is one of the very few countries where it costs six figures to go to school. Like, I went to school in Austria and it's like $500. I think it's insane that it costs that much in America, but I don't think you have to go into debt as long as you have a credit card or anything. I think there's a lot of pressures, but I think that comes from not being educated enough. And that's not like a woman or man thing. I think there's a lot of people that don't know community college, or there's a lot of shame in community college as well in America.
Well, it's more so just the pressures that are put on women now. But back to the original claim, because that's the whole point, is feminism is anti-woman and makes them unhappy. So you have to refute those points.
I think the definition of feminism is pushing for equality. If you're going by the dictionary definition, there's no way that can be anti-women.
That's the dictionary definition. That was never the motive of the movement, and that's not what we have today. Obviously, men and women are still not equal, because you said if they're equal, that means women would get drafted, and you'd be okay with that.
Yes, I feel like if you want to be equal, you have to accept the good and the bad that comes with that.
Would that make women happier or less happy? In general, not you specifically, but in general.
Going into war would make anybody unhappy.
Correct. So you're answering my question, that the farther we've gone in society and the further that feminism, we're on, I don't know, fifth wave now or whatever, we've become increasingly more unhappy.
Okay, but then are you saying that men shouldn't be able to be drafted either because that would make them unhappy?
No, I'm not saying that, because I don't believe men and women are equal in that sense. We're not the same. We're not biologically the same. We do have to have someone fight for our country, and I don't believe that should be women.
Did you guys feel like you found common ground in any way?
I don't think we really found common ground, but I think you're a great speaker, and I'd love to talk to you more about this.
Thank you. Yeah, anytime. Thank you. Great conversation. My second claim is that men and women are not equal and should not be treated as such.
Let's go.
Savanna.
Sophia.
Nice to meet you.
The claim that you
The graphics they pop up there are kind of whack, but whatever. Yeah, who cares? Sophia, here we go.
said was men and women aren't equal and shouldn't be treated as such. I'm actually very curious as to what your points are on that, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're equal in value, right? We have the same worth and value, but
Everyone was made in the divine image of God. So yeah, I think that's a good point that you started with, though, right off the bat, is equal doesn't mean a value, inherent worth. We talked a little bit about mental health, right? Everyone has worth, value. Everyone's good enough, right? The world needs you here, right? That doesn't take away your value, your worth, right? Everyone was made in the divine image of God, but equal in terms of what? Equal in terms of the job you can do, your biology, what you're sort of inclined to do environmentally or evolutionarily. Excuse me. And I freaking did something to my ribs or my obliques at jujitsu the other day, and that fucking really hurt to sneeze. I'm sure you really wanted to know that, but anyways, let's move. Let's see what she has to say.
equal would mean the same, and we're obviously not the same biologically, mentally, hormonally, physically, a lot of different ways. And so I don't think that we should be treated exactly the same in society, but feminism pushes for that.
Okay, for sure. So I do agree with you on the fact that women and men are equal in value. However, when you say it shouldn't be treated equally in society, do you mean rights-wise? Because, you have a credit card, I'm going to guess, right? You have a bank account, you have all these things. I'm sure you make money from your social media. I don't know. I just think, biologically, men and women are very different. Men are physically stronger. Women tend to have smaller frames, stuff like that. But it's I don't know. I feel like men and women should be treated equal in society because, yes, there are some things that either or cannot.
If they should be treated equal, then they can play in the same sport. They can do the same physical requirements. They can work as many hours. Then they can do all that stuff. And then men should be, and then there should be a penalization if you don't reach that standard. If everyone is equal, but they're not. There's different things. I'm gonna do this 1 mile run with 100 pounds on my back and a woman's not going to. But if everyone's equal, then they're not going to make it. And then it's going to be less advantageous for women because we're not specifically gearing specific things towards them and what they're good at and their biology and what their physical stature is. That's why there is men and women's sports, right? Because of that physical nature and because we can't treat everyone the exact same all the time outside of obviously value and rights. At least that's how I see it.
Do, but if we want to try to do it, we should have the options to. You know what I mean?
Yes. So there's a lot of different ways we could go with this. Yes, everyone should be treated with the same amount of respect. And I think that's probably where you're coming from. But going back to the fact that women aren't drafted, and the majority of women would say, absolutely not. I don't want to do that. We're not treated equally.
You know what?
Society.
I can see that, but TBH, I think equal means equal. So if we're going to draft men, we might as well draft women as well. And yeah, maybe a bunch of women. I know. Isn't that crazy?
That is so insane.
That's so insane. I mean, there's a lot of jobs also in the military that are less physically demanding. I mean, obviously it's the military. It's going to be, but at the same time, there are a lot of jobs that women can do. And there are women actively in the military right now serving our country. So it's like, if you want men to be the only ones drafted, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of feminist of you. You know what I mean? You want them to be on the battlefield. You want us women safe. But also, I think it's equal rights, equal fights. You know, I'm a feminist, so if I get drafted, I get drafted because that's what I'm standing for.
So it's feminist of me to say only men should fight, but it's also feminist to say both should go?
I mean, I think because it sounds like you want men in the dangerous positions.
Correct. They're biologically meant for that. I mean, so women have had the chance to work on oil rigs and, in the North Sea and do.
Look at that. She brought up my point. She's hearing me. Here we go. Rock on.
All these very dangerous jobs for the past 100 years, and they're still not choosing to do that.
I don't know
very low
if for the past 100 years. I mean,
since feminism.
So
yeah, about 100 years.
I don't know if I agree with you on that point, but I think
agree on what point?
On the fact that we've been able to go to oil rigs in the ocean for 100 years. I think we've been able to
around that time period. I mean,
feminism started because of the war, obviously. I mean, and a bunch of other things. Like as women, we need rights. Feminism has given you a bunch of things. It's given you the opportunity to share this opinion that you have on social media. And I think that's great. I think you should have those platforms that feminism has opened up for you, because there's a bunch of different waves of feminism. And as we progress in feminism, things could definitely be different. But the whole concept is women and men deserve to be treated equal, like fully equal, I think. I mean, we're different. We're going to be different. But at the same time, in society, equal, because also you're given a choice. You're fully given a choice. You don't have to do any of these things. But if you want to do them, you should be able to. Like my best friend, she's a mechanic, and she chooses to do that. That is by her choice. She loves cars. She loves all this stuff. And she's hands-on in that shop day in.
She is that friend you're referring to is 100% the exception to the rule. In general, most women aren't going to choose that job. And that's totally cool. And if they do, it's available to them. If they want to go to the fucking sea or go to the oil rigs or work on the landman, right? Or do whatever the case may be, they certainly do have that choice. They certainly do have that option. They certainly do. All right. My sister was an engineer. I mentioned her a little bit before. Maybe we can encourage more women to be engineers. That's cool. Fine. Great. Let's go do that. But they still ultimately have the choice and want to have to do that job. And that job is challenging and hard, just like most jobs are challenging and hard. So you want to lean towards a job or a profession or a career or a calling or a vocation or whatever you want to call it that's most intrinsically aligned with you, not something you're forcing yourself to do because you have the option to do it. Options don't always mean good things. Options give us a lot of different things going on in our brain, and it's hard for us to decide, and then we just randomly decide instead of trying to narrow it down to a couple things that feel most intrinsically aligned, getting clarity on that, right? I did a whole podcast episode about goals and target setting. And one of the most important words is clarity. And one of the most important questions is, what do I really want? Not what does society want, not what the feminists want, not what I think I should want, or what do I have the option to do? Like, what do I really, really want? And you have to ask yourself that question. And if that option is available to you, which most likely it is because we can pretty much do anything that we want, then go and do that. Go explore that option, experience it, reflect on it, learn from it, grow from it. Is that what you want to do? Great, do it. But just because you have the choice doesn't mean that you should do it or even want to do it.
day out because she wants to. And I think she should be allowed to do that, even if it's dangerous, even if it's men's work.
Well, so the draft is not a choice.
Yeah, and I know that. But to have these choices that we do have, there are going to be some give and take. Like, if men get drafted, women should be able to get drafted too, because again, women are in the military.
Yeah, they're in the military.
Yeah.
But drafting would be not your choice. You have to go fight for your
Yeah, I
country.
know.
You'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with that.
You would go.
Yeah.
Willingly.
I wouldn't have a choice, obviously, but men don't have a choice either. So why do they not get a choice and we do?
Well, because there's biological differences and it was set up for that reason. Like, someone does have to fight for our country. That's my whole point.
Well, yeah, I know.
But I don't,
So why
I
can't
do
we?
not think I don't think you're being honest with
I
yourself.
am being honest.
No, I do not think that if the government said you have to go to war tomorrow.
I mean, I
that you would go do
definitely,
it.
I don't think anyone though, going back to that, I don't think anyone would be like, yes, I get to go to war.
No, they wouldn't. No one would be necessarily ecstatic about it, but it is kind of your duty. And women don't really have any duty in society.
There are some men, though, who do, a lot of men, who join the SEALs or the Marines or the Army, who feel a sense of duty and passion for that work. And they feel very inclined to go do that. Now, war is hard. It's dangerous. It's tragic. It's fucking devastating. You talk about PTSD. You talk about the suicide of veterans. All of that stuff is very fucking real. But there are men who feel a sense of purpose and passion and duty when they do that. Talk about Jocko Willink. He talks about Navy SEALs all the time and how much that brotherhood and that camaraderie means something to him. Men need that sense of unity. Men need that sense of brotherhood and that connection. And a lot of do find that direction and value in life by going to the military, voluntarily doing that. And so there is a sense of duty in that. Now, again, war is horrible and tragic and terrible, and people die and get PTSD, and there's veteran suicide. Again, all of that is very, very, very real. And so but there are men who do get kind of fired up about the idea of protecting their country, about protecting their loved ones, about protecting the freedoms that America offers. There is a sense of duty for that, and that's unbelievable. And thank God we have those people to protect us.
Really, like, men have all of it. We don't.
So why can't we have some?
I mean, if you want to get drafted, go. That's my whole
that's
point.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I don't think you're being honest with yourself. I
Well,
think
no.
if you actually sat here, you're like,
yes. Okay.
if we had the option, if the government tomorrow said, here's your option, we can go full equality, you get all the same rights as men, same equality, but you have to go to war, or we can stay as we are, I think you would choose to stay as we are.
I don't think so.
I don't.
Because also though, there
Yes.
aren't any drafts going on. There are
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking. Okay.
If there was a draft tomorrow and they said, okay, well, we're drafting, I don't know how old you are, young women to go to war, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
I don't think you're being
I
honest
think
with yourself.
women, I do, like, I have a belief in my heart that women are just as capable as men.
I disagree.
And
Just as capable in what? Definitely not just as capable in war. That's a false statement. Men are stronger, faster, can stay up longer, can hold more stuff, have more bone density, are less sort of emotional reactive, can be a more stoic, right? Of course, women are very, 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 very capable. Very capable. The three most important people that have ever existed in my life, probably outside of like my dad and my son now, are two dudes, but it's like my mom, my sister, and my wife. And they're extremely capable. I mean, I fucking watched my wife give birth. That's like going to war or something like that. But like, they have different capabilities and different capacities. And to say the same thing about that, I don't think there's ever been a woman who's ever been a Navy SEAL. Ever. It's just not possible. Maybe there's one woman that'll come around and do it, and she'll be the sort of the exception to the rule. But they're capable, yes, in general, but in very, very different ways do their capacities and capabilities get displayed.
there are so many different jobs in the military that it's not like it's going to be on the front lines all the time.
So yeah, we're basically agreeing that women and men are biologically different.
And I said that at the very beginning. I do agree with you.
Correct.
However, I do think equal rights need to be the option needs to be there.
So-
Whether or not you agree with that, women and men are different. Men are stronger. Women are more, I think, capable mentally of a lot of things, but men have the physical, grunt for the military, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to sit here and pitch for women to be equal in every other sense except for the military. I think if we're going to be equal all around, let's get drafted. Like, yeah, I'd hate to get drafted. You'd hate to get drafted. Everyone here, all the guys, they'd hate to get drafted. But to be equal, we gotta be equal.
If I were to estimate how much time.
Yeah, I just don't think you're being honest.
I mean, if she is being honest, I certainly appreciate the consistency. It means a lot to her argument. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know her well enough to know if she's being honest.
And you're
or
also
not.
bringing up the point that there's other jobs in the military that don't require combat. And you're like,
But
okay, so women can work those.
Well, but also there are women currently in the military who are in active combat, who are doing the combat job.
Right, but every single woman who has like tried out for the Navy SEALs has not made it because she's not physically capable to get through that testing to even become a Navy SEAL.
Wow, it's like she's reading my mind, or I'm reading her mind. It's kind of fucking weird.
Every single woman.
Do you have any proof of any?
We can
evidence?
look. I mean, we can Google this.
Yeah, I would love
no,
to.
there's no women, and there's no female Navy SEAls. They have not been able to make it through the test, the physical test that you have to get through in order to become a Navy SEAL. So yeah, and you agreed with me that there's biological differences, but I just don't think you're being honest with yourself that that to reach full equality, we would have to have the same duties in society that men do.
I think that women are capable enough too. I think you're capable enough too. I think I'm capable enough too. I think everyone.
I think I wouldn't make it past the first day, to be honest.
Really?
Like, I'm just being honest. I'm being so real.
You seem like
with
a very
myself.
strong woman.
I'm opinionated, but I'm not. I don't want to go fight for our country, the one that takes all of my money and that screws us all over. Like, why would I want to go do that?
I mean,
and so,
but would anyone? Nobody would.
No, but you're saying you'd be okay with it.
I would be okay with it. Okay. I've actually thought about joining the military a few times, But
that would be by choice.
That would be by choice, which is what feminism gives us. Choice. Draft doesn't, but that's because of the government. That's not on feminism. That is because whole other thing, whole other topic. But basically, men and women, to kind of see, we have about a minute left to kind of go back to it. I think men and women should fully have equal opportunities in society. Yes, we're going to get treated differently because men and women are inherently different, again, biology, science, that whole thing. Men and women are inherently different. However, I do think that the opportunity should be there. All of them.
Right, but drafting's not an opportunity. That's what I'm trying to get back to.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying too. It is by force. But why do men have to be forced?
Because that's their duty as men.
Well, who said?
So then the question then goes into like, if that's man's duty is to fight, protect, and I agree with that. What is a woman's duty? Do they have any duties? Are they obligated to do anything? Because there's no government sort of forced thing that women have to get pregnant by a certain age to continue our population and have kids and be wives. There's nothing forcing them to do that. But there is this idea that men have to go to war and they're forced to do that. And so I think it's important for women to think about what duties they have and what duties they have to society to create a flourishing, healthy, and productive society, whether that's inside your nuclear family or just you as a person in the world. You have to think about your duties. If all you think about is, I have choice to do whatever I want, it's all about me, 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 me. I get to do this, I get to do this, I get to do this. And if everyone thinks that selfishly, then that's really the downfall of our society, when really we should try to become the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world. So what's being of service to the world? Potentially it's going to the military to serve my country. Potentially it's starting a family and having kids, or whatever the case may be. Those are more important questions than just like, I get choice. It's about me and my choice only.
The country
but
from like the beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, the times change, if we're going from the beginning, like there's a lot of things that have drastically changed since then. So I think equal opportunity. I truly do. And yeah, it would suck. It would suck so bad to get drafted. It would suck for all of us. It would suck for all the men. It would suck for all the women. But if that's what it takes, because that's also a very outlandish, not in a rude way, but like, that's not really what the primary focus is. It's like drafting. It hasn't been a thing in a long time.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Let's kind of divulge from the draft. I think we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay.
Where would you say that women and men are still not equal in today's society?
Well, I think honestly, with how feminism has been or has progressed as a society, I think we are very equal. I think there's a lot of things that we both are able to do, whatever. There's a lot of society norms and standards that are different for men and women, which I'm not a fan of. But at the end of the day, feminism has done a lot of the work that has been needed to be done to give women and men these chances.
So I think you agree with my point.
which is men and women
are not equal, so
in
they're
share.
different, right?
Yes.
We agreed on
Yeah.
the biological differences. We agreed that they're inherently different.
Yeah.
And you agreed that you would not want to be drafted.
I think we both agree that men and women are different biologically. I think we agree to disagree on the draft.
No, it was
Yeah.
great. It was
Yeah.
great.
It's good
Thank you.
talking to you. Thank you.
My third claim is that marriage and children are more important than a career. Hi, I'm Natalie. Savannah, nice to meet you.
This claim is that marriage and children are more important than a career.
Right.
I want to start by saying I have a lot of respect for that opinion. I was a wife and I took that very seriously, and I am a mom and I take that very seriously. I think taking it in as a blanket statement, I could never say that that marriage and children are more important than a career. I hold them in greatly equal importance. I think looking at it on a more microscopic level, like if my child is sick and I need to not work for 3 days and be by his side, that's where I'm going to be always. But my career is also very important to me. And I think that my child will be better off seeing how hard I work and how much I love my career.
I think you're agreeing with me because you said if your child was sick, you're going to choose the child over the career. And when people are on their deathbed, the number one thing that people say on their deathbed is, I wish I would have spent more time away from my career and more time with my family and kids.
Yeah. So let me make an argument even more in your favor a little bit. Taking it not just like marriage and children, I think that human connection is very, very important. It's a great indicator of a longer lifespan is the more community that you have around you. So not even just focusing on
Of course, I have to mention this. I mention it every single stream, episode, podcast, everything that I do ever. It's like Harvard did an 85-year study on happiness, on how to live the quote unquote good life. And basically to summarize that in the simplest way possible, they found that two things are really important, are the most important things to living the good life. And that's great health and great relationships. Focus on those two things. And I promise when you take your very last fucking breath, you'll be like, yep, that was a good life because I focused on my health and I focused on my relationships, and those bring the most fulfillment for me and for our lives. So here we go. She has a good point.
Immediate family that you create, that's very, very important. But I also think for a lot of people that without a career, there's not as much direction in life. And I think my career and who I am outside of just being a mom is extremely important to me. I know a lot of women really feel the same way. And so when we're looking at it on a wider scale as the blanket statement that it is, I just could never say that one is more important than the other.
You don't find one more fulfilling than the other?
I don't actually.
That's interesting to me because
I would say it like I have a job, I have a podcast, I provide for my family. I do all these sorts of things that are extremely, extremely important. But being a husband is more important. Being a father is more important. I'm not downgrading my career, my path, and my business and my podcast and all these things that I've built and trying to build from the ground up to be able to take care of my wife and kids and mom and dad and all these things that I have that I want to do that are more important, that are important. But what's most important is being a husband and my wife and being a father. It is more important than my career. So I'm not sure why that claim is controversial. Things can be important. You can have a hierarchy of things that are important. The third thing on my list of most important things in my life doesn't make it like not important. It's just not as important as my son or my wife, which I think is a normal thing that anyone would say. Do I still need to go to work and make money and provide? Yes, of course. Money is important. But again, if my wife or my son needs me, I'll drop everything. No fucking doubt. And this mother said the exact same thing. So she's really in agreement, but she doesn't want to sort of make the feminist thing mad because the feminist movement is like career first, boss babe. You got the choice. You should have a career and go fucking for it. Have a career. Savanna has a career. She is in social media. She has a job. She gets paid. She has a career. I don't think she has any kids yet. I really don't know. But she does have a career. So she can't say that she doesn't work and she's a stay-at-home this and all she does is fucking bake sourdough all day. It's not what she does. She has a job. She works. She's on podcasts and shows and all these types of things. So a career is of value. It does bring meaning and purpose to someone. But the most meaning and purpose can potentially, at least in my life and my wife's life, come from our marriage and come from our kid. And it's more important than anything else. It doesn't mean that other stuff isn't important too. Right. So I think that's the weird distinction that this woman is trying hard not to make, or I don't know, something like that.
I mean, like I told you, at the end of people's lives, that's the number one thing they say. I mean, we can also pull up the data, the fact that married women with children are the happiest women in society. So there's a lot of not only data behind it, but also like the fact that that's people's number one regret.
Yeah.
So that's my whole point here.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I can't really speak to how I'm going to feel at the end of my life. I have a lot of respect for your opinion on that. It takes a lot to be a mom. I think it's one of the most important jobs in the world. But I think part of that,
there you go.
I think part of that is also giving your children a demonstration of what the world looks like outside of just being a parent.
Which would still be a part of parenting. So you're actually saying that your career is an important part of you being a mom. And obviously you have to financially support your child. Mm-hmm. But what would you say the main reason that you work is for?
Marketing is easy. This one even said we should get some fancy cookie.
I would actually say that the first reason I work is for myself and not for my child, or at least the career that I've chosen and how passionate I am about the things that I do is for myself, because I could work a lot of different jobs to support my child. But my career specifically, I do for myself. And then my son would probably be like number two.
Yeah, minus the passion. Like if it was any job, if it was any career, I think the majority of women working, if they have families, would say, yeah, I work to help support my family. They may still be really passionate about what they do. Like, I love what I do, but I also do it because it helps support the family that I have right now, and it'll help support my future kids. And that's kind of what I think about in the back of my mind. So I think we're actually agreeing on this statement. I think that you're saying like a lot of you're passionate about your career, but I think the financial part of your career helps take care of your son.
Again, it's important. It's about having a hierarchy of needs. And it's okay if one thing is more important than the other, and the thing that's less important is still really fucking important, right? Again, being a husband and being a dad are the two most important roles in my life. But the only way for me to really do that to the best of my ability is to provide for my family in a way that's suitable, where I have free time, I have freedom, I can do stuff. Eventually, when my son goes to school, I can pick him up or drive him to go to sports, and we can do all these things on the weekends, because I've built up, I've worked so damn hard to build up a career where that makes sense and that works. And my job and my podcast and my speaking and my coaching are all really, really fucking important. And my nonprofit, like, those are really fucking important. But it doesn't come close to how important being a great husband and being a great father is. They're sort of additive on each other. And I think that's kind of the most important thing. And I'm trying to think that that's what Savanna is trying to say. I don't really know. She's not a mom yet, like this woman who is a mom. So they have different perspectives, but I think they're kind of getting towards the same thing. This woman who's on like the feminist side of the fence is trying to be sort of tiptoe around so she doesn't like anger the feminist people, because she wants to still claim she's a feminist. So it's kind of makes the thing sort of weird, but she knows why she works. She knows what she does. She knows that being a mom is their most important role, even though she has a great career and she loves that and it gives her purpose and meaning. And that's a beautiful thing. Absolutely. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Which then contributes to the fact that you're a mother.
I think that we're agreeing on a lot. Coming back to the statement, marriage and children is more important than a career. I will never agree with that. I just won't agree with that, because I just think even outside of marriage and children, that my career is equally as important. I didn't say that super different.
No, that's okay. That's you're like the exception to the rule, because everyone else would probably, or a good majority would disagree. But I think when you look at it at a macro perspective, you're replaceable in your career. Like, AI is going to take the majority of jobs in the next 5 years. Yeah. You are not replaceable in your home. Like, no one else can be your child's mother.
I 100% agree there. If we are looking on a macro level, always my child is going to be the most important thing, for sure.
Yeah, and if you had to choose, like just hypothetically speaking, between your career and your child, I think you would choose your child. And I'm not trying to speak for you, but like I don't.
I mean, yeah, most people would. The people that wouldn't probably shouldn't be parents. I mean, I know dads out there who will literally do any job, anytime, anywhere to take care of their kid. I also know dads out there who don't do shit and are fucking absent and not present and pieces of shit, and they need to get their fucking shit together. It's like, but I do also know dads, because most of the men I know are good men, really good men, would literally do anything, work 15, 12, 18 hours to provide for their family. And there's this sort of, this tug of your heart that happens as a man when you become a dad. It's like you see this little kid that you produced and made, and your wife birthed, and it's a fucking miracle, and it's God bless, and you want to spend as much time as humanly possible with that little human, but also at the same time you feel this immense sort of responsibility to work as hard as humanly possible to give this little human the best life. And it's a really, really, really difficult sort of tug of war. Man, I want to work all fucking day so I can provide, but man, I also fucking want to spend so much time with this little human. I feel it every day. I feel it right now, sitting in this, freaking studio doing this thing. But like, that's the price you pay at sometimes to be a dad. And I think some people forget about that. And then maybe, you want to give all the credit in the world to the mothers who do a phenomenal job. My wife is an incredible mother. I was raised by an incredible mother, unbelievable stuff. But the kid should be a top priority. But I think if you're in a marriage, your spouse is the most important thing, because if there's no relationship between you and your spouse, you have nothing. You have nothing. You can't give your kid everything they need if the relationship with your spouse is not paramount. So that comes first. Then how you, obviously, the relationship you have with your spouse, and then that bleeds into how you treat your kids, and then that goes into your whatever career you might have.
I don't think any woman could choose a career over like losing their child. I know that's a hypothetical, but I think we're agreeing. I think you agree that your child is more fulfilling than a career, because let's say you lost your career, you would just, go find another job in order to be able to provide for that child. But I don't think you would ever choose your career over a kid.
I would never, if I had to choose in that hypothetical, of course, I'm going to choose my child. So I understand where you're coming from there. If I didn't have a child and I was single, always been single, never had a child, I would value my career greatly, and I would not be taking marriage and children into account.
Yeah, so it's typical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you made a comment about how when people are looking for jobs or going into a job, they're already thinking about like, well,
I think if you're already married, or if you already have kids, which you do, that's kind of your like perspective, as in like, well, now this career is taking care of a lot of people. It's not just me anymore. It's not all about me.
Yeah.
So if you're a single woman and you're not married and you don't have kids, of course, at the time you're going to say, yeah, my career is the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
But if you have a career and you have marriage and kids, 90% of women, marriage and kids is the most important thing in their life.
Okay. I don't know that we're going to come.
No, but I think you agree. I think maybe it's the way that the claim is phrased.
I
Maybe
think that's
if
a big part of it.
I think if I said your child is more fulfilling than your career, maybe that would be a claim that you would like. But in the hypothetical that I gave you, you're choosing your child over the career, which in hindsight shows that your child is much more important to you than your career.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
So we agree. We agree.
Found common ground.
Yeah. Okay.
God bless. I mean, I just don't think that's a controversial statement. Like, of course you fucking agree. Also, the Hype House could fix their audio. There's like, it's kind of fuzzy in the background sometimes. So they should do a better job on that.
Thank you. My fourth claim is that men and women should not be able to work the same jobs. Hi, Savanna.
Carly.
Nice to meet you.
So you claim that women and men can't work the same jobs, and I'm just curious to why you think that.
Well, should not be able to work the same jobs. And I'm mainly talking about combative, military, cops, law enforcement, anything super physical and combative. I don't think women should be in those positions.
Because of biological reasons?
Correct.
So in terms of biological reasons, since women carry life, do you think that men shouldn't be able to be stay-at-home dads? Because biologically they don't
Yeah, I actually
life.
I
You
don't believe
think
men
that?
should be stay-at-home dads.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I mean, we can argue that all day. I think
Right.
that's more so my perspective, and I'm also coming from a Christian perspective. So I don't think it's like if we're thinking from a biblical perspective, it literally says in the Bible, like, men who do not provide are worse than an unbeliever, and so they're damned to hell, basically.
Okay.
And I think also, and just speaking from, I have a husband, so I know this from his perspective, work gives men a lot of purpose as well.
Sure. So
I know
some
it's not
men,
the claim,
and also raising kids gives some men a lot of.
$15 billion is a lot of money. That's how much Lendio has helped small businesses get through our loan market.
Happiness as well.
Yeah, of course. Having my son is fucking incredible. You know, and being a dad is fucking incredible. But there is a lot of purpose and meaning that comes from the work we do, because men, we want to feel useful. And so that's what work gives us. Sometimes we get appreciation from work. We feel useful at work. We get whatever. Some guys work with their hands and their bodies and all these types of things. And like, men have the strong desire to feel appreciated, respected, and useful. And so if you're a woman out there listening, those are some of the qualities that a man needs from you. He wants to feel respected, appreciated, and useful. And we get a lot of that from work. But most people, like especially the feminists, always claim about the exception. But some dads like to stay at home. Of course they do. Of course they do. Of course some dads are stay-at-home dads. Of course they fucking are. But the majority of us work best in sort of the traditional framework. Now, of course, there are exceptions where the woman makes way more money and she goes to work and the dad stays home. Of course, there is that. Of course, it exists. Everyone has their own unique patterns and ways of raising their family and has their own different idiosyncrasies and all those type of stuff. But in generally speaking, it sort of works best in this regard. Anyways, here we go.
And I think that it gets really hard when we try to create these biological boxes to fit people into, because biologically, sex isn't binary. There's intersex people that exist that,
I'm not sure what that means.
Intersex people, it's actually about 2% of the world's population are intersex, which is about as many natural redheads as there are in the world. And it's when somebody is born with not stereotypically XXXY chromosomes or.
Yeah, but okay, great. And those people should be valued and appreciated and loved and all of that. But you can't cater to the world's things to 2% of the population. You cater the world to what generally most men and women are inclined to do. At least I think so. But
or they might have different chromosomes that match what's down there. So where do you fit those people in biologically? Because biologically, sex isn't even binary. And if we're talking about gender, that's not binary either. You have non-binary people. So like, how do you fit them into what jobs they can and can't work?
Yeah, so you're born male or female.
Or you can be intersex. That's biologically a thing. You can be born neither.
You're talking about such a small percentage, and I'm talking on a macro perspective that there's male and female.
Sure, but for these people, where do you place them? It's hard because it doesn't.
That's not even the claim. The claim is women and men.
You don't place them anywhere. They get to place themselves where they feel more inclined, because that's the whole point. They have choice and ability to choose and have all these great things in their life that they want to do. And so if they are intersex, they have the ability to choose where do they want to do, how they want to do it, who they want to love, who they don't want to love, who they like, what job they like, all that type of stuff, right? Again, people love to use the exception to the rule to make their argument, and that doesn't make sense. You have to make arguments based on generalities and based on the majority of the population, which is men and women.
And should not be able to work the same jobs.
Sure.
So that's what I'm arguing, is that I don't think women should be in
But you're
combative
saying
positions.
because of biology.
Because of biology, I also think that they should be more protected. Like we as women should be a more protected species because we give life. And we are more delicate than men. That is a fact.
Sure. I think that biologically, women, studies have shown, are better multitaskers, are better at strategy, have a higher pain tolerance, have a better immune system. So we could say biologically, because of this, women are better suited to be leaders. Would you agree with that?
No, not necessarily, because that's not.
But
that's not true
biologically,
for every.
it's not true that every man is biologically bigger than every woman either, right? See, I think that your biology and how you were born shouldn't dictate what kind of job you have. That should be based off your skill. If a tall man and a short man are going out for the same job, whoever has better skills should be hired for that job. It doesn't matter that somebody was born shorter or taller than the other one. Biology doesn't matter.
Men have far higher levels of testosterone than women.
Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't have anything to do with your ability to work.
No, and I don't think we're going to agree on this claim, because my 2 points under this claim are, number one, we're biologically different. Number two, I think women should be protected in society.
Okay.
Those are my reasonings for why I don't think that
I agree.
they should work the same jobs. And it goes back to the same thing I've been talking about with the draft. There's a reason that women aren't drafted and forced to go into war, because there are those biological differences. Also, we're seen as the more valuable gender because we're able to give life. So naturally, women were protected.
We're like God, we create life. I did want to bring up a point earlier that you said about how, women should value marriage and children over a career. And I was just curious because, you have this amazing content creating career. You're out here doing debates with everyone, which is awesome. Like, you're very successful. Congratulations on all
Thank
that.
you.
That's really impressive. But I was just wondering, with all due respect, if you truly feel that way, then why are you here, debating, doing things to further your content creation instead of being a mom and having kids and being at home right now, if you truly thought that? Because
I'm here with my husband.
Right, but you don't have any kids. You're not at home with your kids.
I think a woman's fertility and her choice of when to have kids is between her husband and God. Personally,
I agree. The choice. Yes.
Okay, that has nothing to do with if it's more important. I value my marriage way more than my career.
And that's great for you. But I'm saying, I feel like that's just not true, because if you really believe that, you wouldn't be here debating. You would be at home with kids.
But I don't have children yet.
Why don't you have children yet? If it's the most important thing, why are you doing things for your career?
Is between her husband and God. I think that's a very disrespectful question of why I don't have kids yet.
Well, because you're saying it's the most important thing for a woman, but
I'm saying it's more important than your career. I didn't say that I have to give up my career completely in order to have a successful marriage. I have an amazing marriage. My husband is here with me today.
And that's why feminism has given us this opportunity to be able to.
I mean, she makes a valuable point, this woman. That's why I don't know if I consider this woman to be a trad wife, because she's not traditional. Nothing about her is traditional. And she makes good points. So it's interesting to think about, I think both of them, like, this is the most, the whole non-binary intersex thing was like sort of off the topic, and it didn't really make any sense towards what she was trying to say, but this makes sense, because she's sort of attacking her actions. Do they line up actually with her beliefs and her values? Now, I don't think that, she should be asking about kids and fertility. You never know who has issues, and it's really hard to have a kid, and maybe they are trying, and maybe they have had issues, and like, God bless, hopefully everything's okay. But there is something to be said about, she's out here doing all these debates, and her career is really important, and like, yeah, her husband's with her, but like, what's her husband doing? And like, is he the one providing, or is she providing, or do they actually live in a traditional household, and things of that nature?
Do both, just like you, to be able to, choose what path we want.
No, feminism would rather me divorce my husband or have never gotten married and have just gone full career. Yes, it would have. And if we go back to all of the writings,
feminism is the reason we're here being able to debate right now.
No, and
feminism is the reason we're able to be on TikTok and say your views.
Everyone says that. Who do you think allowed feminism?
What do you mean? Allowed feminism?
Yeah. Who do you think allowed feminism?
That question doesn't make sense.
Feminism
is a movement that has happened.
The patriarchy is what allowed feminism to even come into fruition.
Feminism is anti-patriarchy. So yeah, we're fighting patriarchy, if that's what you're saying, rather than a matriarchy. Is that, I'm confused.
Well, we live in a matriarchy. That's a whole other.
We do not live in a matriarchy.
We absolutely do. That's a whole other
debate. Can I also say something really quick? Because earlier I heard you say matriarchy is women over men, right? And that's actually not accurate. We can't compare matriarchy to patriarchy in that way. It's not necessarily women over men, like the same structures of patriarchy. Matriarchy actually centers motherhood and children at the center and community.
Yep. So let me get this straight. You're telling me I don't have to spend countless hours consolidating our company's financial data?
That's what matriarchy is. So I was actually
No,
surprised to hear you say that.
It's women making more political and influential decisions when we're talking about a matriarchal society.
And it centers motherhood and it centers children,
Right,
as
so
does feminism.
You could say the same thing about patriarchy, because patriarchy naturally would have been fatherhood. It's a paternal protection. But you guys, demonize the whole thing. And so now we have all these weak and feminine men that aren't taking care of our society. So now the women have to step up and be boss bitches and whatever.
I think men are capable of doing whatever they set their minds to as well. And that's why feminism is for everyone. It benefits men too. Feminism is saying, men don't have to be this one type masculine, big providing person. Men can be vulnerable. Men can be artistic. Men can do.
Of course they can be. Obviously they can be. But the whole rhetoric, again, like I stated before, has moved towards like the idea that women don't need men, or society doesn't need men, which is totally fucking absurd. And that men are just like these hairy, misbehaving women, which is totally wrong. We want to lean towards what's most natural and normal to us. I think men should be warrior poets. Most men should be warrior poets. The warrior meaning a provider, protector, dangerous, competent, articulate, able to provide and protect and all those types of things. But the poet side is being able to understand emotion, having emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, and being able to express love and express beauty, and sometimes being able to express vulnerability, being able to write your vows if you're going to get married. Like, that's the poet side of a really healthy masculine male. But he also has the warrior side, the competent, dangerous, articulate side of him that's really important for society. And you mesh those two things together and you get this masculine man who can provide and add value to the world and be of service to himself, his wife, his kids, and his community. That's important.
Different things. They're not confined to this one box. And that's the whole problem I think I'm having with your views, is you keep trying to constrain people into these certain boxes of what you should and shouldn't do.
What have I constrained?
Based off, well, you're saying that men should do this, women should do this.
No, I said I have a career and I've got a husband and I'm married.
Right.
I love both. I would choose my husband and my marriage every time over my career. Even if he told me today, Savannah, you know what? I don't really think that your career is serving our marriage. It's okay. I'm done with it. My marriage is way more important anyways.
Okay.
Personally.
That'd be an interesting thing for your partner to say.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, but I mean, hypothetically speaking, I guess, but also you are a content creator making money for your family. You are a breadwinner. You are a leader in the sense. You're not at home with your kids right now. You're a boss babe making money online debating people.
I'm not the leader of my home.
Well, you have leadership in the sense that you are an entrepreneur, that you are a content creator, that you're out here achieving success.
That doesn't make me the leader of my
Their leadership
home.
roles is what I'm saying.
Not
it just seems
necessarily.
a little hypocritical that you want certain women to value marriage and children, but then you're out here doing things to benefit your career. So why
Which
do other
also
women
benefits my marriage and my future family?
And that's great for you, but not every woman wants that, is the thing too.
Well, you're straw manning me is what you're doing actually, because I never said that women should stay home and only stay home and never work.
Okay.
I said that in hindsight, if you have both, if we have career and we have marriage and kids is way more important. It's not temporary. You're not replaceable.
For sure.
You gave life to it. Like, I don't even know how you can argue that.
Because
but
I'm
that's not even
saying
the claim
if
we're
you
arguing.
really believe that, then why are you here working on your career?
That you're not making any sense. How is me being here affecting my marriage? How is
Well,
that
you could
affecting-
be at home with kids right now if you wanted to.
Again,
right?
I don't have kids yet.
Why? Because you're focusing on your career.
And
it's not the
said
right timing.
No, I said it's a completely disrespectful question in my opinion, because you keep asking me, and I've said that's between my husband and God. A lot of women can't have children or infertile, so it's extremely disrespectful to ask that question.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with the fact that in hindsight, marriage and kids are more important than a career.
For you, not for every woman. For you, maybe. But not every woman feels that way.
and
What
again,
about infertile women who can never have kids? Is their value less because
Again, that's a straw man. You're saying that I said that marriage, you're more valuable if you've got marriage and kids. That's not what I said. I said if you have both, your marriage and your kids are more important than your career.
Guys finding common ground?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I think feminism actually benefits you a lot more than you realize.
I
Feminism
think you just don't know your
benefits
own
trad
history.
wives. Feminism benefits stay-at-home moms. Feminism is fighting for, maternity leave, for protections for wives. Feminism is for everyone. I hope you learned something today. Thank you.
Speaking of everyone, check out my podcast called Something for Everybody on all major podcast platforms. Here we go. About 30 minutes left in this thing.
My fifth claim is that feminism was never about equality.
I'm trying to get through the whole thing, but I'm getting a little tired of this kind of conversation, so we'll see.
Between the sexes. Savanna, nice to meet you. Love your outfit.
Thank you so much. Okay, so feminism was never about equality.
Yes.
That's your claim. Break that down for me.
Well, I think when we go back to the early feminist writings and even like the fact that there was a lot of witchcraft roots behind it, I think it's always been about a sort of dominatrix of women over men, and making the society like cancel the nuclear family and not really like want men and women to be equal. I think it's not celebrated the differences in men. It's instead said that we are completely the same and therefore we don't need each other.
All right, awesome. So you're taking this from a framework of like equality meaning equal, meaning sameness, right?
Yes.
Whereas in terms of feminism and how the movement defines what equality means, we're talking about value, we're talking about agency. So feminism, the backbone of feminism is the equality between the sexes or genders in regard to agency as well as value in society. So this is about the way that, genders have been perceived throughout history. When we look at the limitation of rights, limitation of access to capital, et cetera, this creates a large power imbalance between, two equal groups of society, which we see as unjust. So can you point to how any of that is not showcased, I suppose?
So I believe we're equal in value, which I want to make very clear. Obviously, men and women are equal in value, but we're extremely different. Like you said, when I'm speaking of equality, I'm speaking of sameness. So I don't think it was ever, when I say it was never about the equality between men and women, I don't think it was ever about making us the same in society.
Okay, so it's not about making us the same. Perfect, we're on the same page.
Okay, so what's your argument?
So, I mean, you argued that, I think that in general, to even attribute that kind of sameness to the conversation about feminism is incorrect. And when we look at like the theorists, you brought up Simone de Beauvoir earlier, and the quote you're referring to talks about how women should never be authorized to stay at home. That's the quote that you're talking about, that you argued somehow says that we should abolish the family in any case. That's not true, right? What we really would want, and what the backbone of her argument was that women should have the choice whether they want to stay at home or whether they want to, go ahead and have an occupation or work. So my question to you is, let's look at like taking your argument to the logical extent. You don't believe women and men should be able to have access to the same occupations?
Well, that's not my claim, though. So let's go back to that quote by Simone de Beauvoir.
Yeah.
In that quote, she actually says they should not be given that choice to stay home.
That's not the quote.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we could pull it up if we
I would love
wanted
to. I actually pulled it up before this just to make sure I said the word specifically used is authorized. So women should not be by authority told that they should not be able to leave the household.
Okay, that's not, well, that's maybe it's in different versions. I don't know. That's not what I read. It actually says that they should not be given that choice in society because the majority of women would choose to stay home.
Can you be a travel advisor without quitting your 9 to 5? Actually, yes. We're for the modern travel.
Right. So you're probably talking about, there's another quote that she kind of brings up that explains how if you gave women the choice to go ahead and pursue an occupation, so many of them would flock to that position. And that is 100% true. We've seen a lot of women flood the workforce as they've been given the opportunity, which shows the desire and the demand for equality of opportunity. So that's 100% true. But regardless, let's cede, even though I disagree this quote exists, and we can totally pull this up afterward. But if this quote ever did exist and one feminist had said this to be the case, this doesn't mean that it reflects the views of the majority of feminists or the majority of people in this group. And the majority of people who write about feminism, as someone who studies sociology, where feminism is a huge part of our curriculum, it's about essentially, again, like I said, the equality of opportunity and agency. So do you want to debate me on that, which is what?
No, and I'm not even saying that maybe we disagree on everything, but I'm saying the movement itself is not really about equality. Like you may be an exception to that.
Well, I mean, how are you defining a movement by one particular person?
Well, we can talk about several different people. I think that
So 5 out of millions of people who are feminists?
But in the beginning, it wasn't millions of people. It was
Yeah.
a very small group.
Yeah,
Now
so-
it's millions of people, but it's because we've progressed as a
Are you
society.
Christian?
Yes.
Awesome. So in the name of Christianity, we saw slavery in America not mandated, essentially. And what was said is that it's white people's God-given right to retain the territory that they did from the Native Americans, as well as enslaving Black people and people from these communities because they simply don't have the capabilities. They're not the same, right? And Christianity was used as a backbone of that argument. Does that mean that Christianity stands for slavery?
But that's not even what we're debating.
Yeah, it's called a logical analogy.
But how are you relating Christianity to the feminist
Well, yeah.
movement?
So if we were to look at a couple, not even a couple, I would say a good amount of Christians, right, and how they profess their faith, they used arguments that also supported slavery, and they used Christianity to found their beliefs about slavery. That's not cool, and we also don't kind of attribute those values to then being innately Christian. Even if you could find me 10 feminists who, in the beginning of its I don't know, creation, I would say, believed such things that you're talking about, which again, you really couldn't, that wouldn't be able to define the entire movement. So many movements have outliers with opinions that we would call fringe. So, yeah.
So you're just saying that you're saying that the minority doesn't represent the majority of feminists?
Yeah, I'm saying the minority that we're, again, assuming for the sake of conversation that, again, if anyone wants to go ahead and look up these quotes, they wouldn't find what you're saying. But even if we presuppose this minority, it cannot reflect the majority or the definition that you would find even in dictionaries.
I mean, obviously, this woman is pretty smart, pretty intelligent, pretty articulate. I also think that Savanna is just someone who says shit because it got her fucking some good publicity on social. I have no fucking clue how Savanna lives her life, what her marriage is actually like with her husband, what her situation is, why she don't has all that stuff. Don't know anything about it. But I know that when she claims that women shouldn't vote or this or that, feminism is evil or whatever, like some of that, maybe she does believe it, but I guarantee you she's leaning more into it because it gets her exposure, clicks, and podcasts and money on social. If she wasn't a trad wife, then she wouldn't have an online course to sell or whatever the fuck or a community that she sells. I don't know what she sells, but I assume because most of the grifters online have this sort of bullshit that they sell. And I assume she does as well because she thinks she has a career about it or whatever the case may be. And maybe she does. Maybe she makes a shitload of money. Maybe she has a shitload of followers. Cool, great. But the reason she has that is she says kind of stuff that's a little out of pocket and not very nuanced and very black and white. This is what I think, and there's no other way around it. And she probably did that once or twice and got loads and loads of followers. And now this is where she's at. So she has to continue sort of down that train of more and more sort of fringe ideas. Now, I don't know. This is just me kind of spitballing some ideas about her. Again, don't know her life, don't know her personally, don't know her social, seen her on a few things, don't know all of her views. But this woman that she's quote unquote debating with is kind of dominating her right now.
Of feminism.
I think how the movement started is very important to the movement in general and the intentions behind why feminism started. So that's my whole argument with that, because it was a small group of women leading this. It wasn't hundreds of thousands of women like it is today. Yeah. So that's my point in that. I think that you're kind of an outlier between the majority of feminists, because I think we're agreeing on the fact that women and men are equal in value, and that I do wish that it was a little bit different, but it's not that way. It's about.
Okay. So when we look up when we look up the definition of feminism, on Google, what do you think you would find?
Well, it says it's the equality between the sexes. That's the dictionary definition. But I don't understand how we're not equal and why feminists keep fighting for equality.
Yeah, of course. We could definitely talk about that. I mean, we could just look at the rates of violence from men towards women. Men kind of top the charts in regards to violence regardless of gender, but specifically intimate partner violence. We see that in societies that have very stringent toxic masculinity norms, we often see an increase in influx of violence towards intimate partners who are women. Women are much more likely to be killed by a man in the household that they know. Oftentimes sociologists will point to the household as being the most dangerous place for women due to this aggression and this violence that comes from men, specifically from these toxic masculine norms. When we look at the brain, you've been talking about the brain a lot, which I would love to discuss. Brains are mosaics. Do you know what that means?
No, explain.
Yeah, of course. So brains, but biologists have explained, and neuroscientists, that they are mosaics, meaning that there is so much overlap between female and male brains that the distinction is not clear-cut whatsoever. And there are so many traits that both females and males exhibit at very similar rates, right? So of course, there are differences between men and women, but there's so much overlap between them that like this violence that we see in society cannot be attributed to the slivers of differences between male and female brains. So there are differences, but this violence, sociologists and biologists have confirmed, comes from external influence.
Thanks, Kafka, Granite.
Eastward Ho
Granite,
is a world class.
Funny.
But again, I don't see what that has to do with the claim.
Women being killed more often by men, not due to some biological difference, that is what we would call oppression. And that's something that needs to change.
You're bringing up the fact that there's violence towards women into my claim, saying that feminism was never about the equality.
So you asked me, what do women need? Like, why are we saying there's inequality?
Yeah. So how do we fix violence towards women? What do you think the step is? Do you think it's more feminism?
Yeah, of course. Well, so when we advocate for awareness about things like violence towards women, that again, we know is coming from societal factors and roles, we can limit them. This is a psychological thing. This is a sociological thing. And having these conversations and enlightening ourselves about what implicit bias is the best way to, solve those issues.
Awesome. It's a really great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. I think we agree that there's an influx of violence towards women. Obviously, I think that court by a lot. And also we live in a country where
women are far more privileged than that woman was the best one so far. And then I'm just trying to get through this a little bit. There's about 20 minutes left in the show. Women are far more privileged than men.
Women typically influence a lot of the political and cultural decisions.
I see your points. I think they make sense. But what about how women have way more issues with safety and the gender pay gap? What do you think about?
So the gender pay gap has been debunked like so many times. Like it's not even a thing anymore. It's been debunked so many times. That they basically took like a survey of like all the jobs women worked and men worked, and they compared the average income. But what they found was that women were just working lower paying jobs. Like they were
Uber did a study about the gender pay gap and for Uber drivers, and the reason why Uber drivers make more money than women is because they drive faster. And if they drive faster, that means they pick up more people. So that was hilarious fucking study that Uber did. But that's really like majority of the time, right? All things considered equal, like men will work longer hours or men will drive faster, and so they will make more money. That's really where the quote unquote pay gap comes from.
Teachers, and they're comparing that to a male surgeon. So that's been debunked so many times. That's not a thing. But if we go back to like the actual privilege part, I know that you brought up, I brought up the safety. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is that there's bad people everywhere. And that just goes back to our biological differences, that men are stronger than women. And so obviously some men are going to take that power to their advantage. It's very unfortunate. We kind of live in like a very dark and evil society. I don't think that necessarily has anything to do with my claim though, that women are more privileged.
Okay, maybe we just have different definitions of privilege, because I feel like being able to like walk out comfortably at night and stuff, that is a privilege.
That definitely is a privilege, but men are involved in crime a lot as well. There's male on male crime all the time. It's just not put into the media a lot. I understand your point that like it's scarier as a woman to walk outside. We don't really have that privilege as much as men. Like my husband feels much safer walking alone at night than I do, but I think that just goes back to the biological differences and the fact that there's bad people, like there's bad men, right? So they're going to use that power to their advantage. Again, I don't think that goes back to my claim that in society, women just have more privilege in general.
I guess if we go back to your original claim about women having influence, I agree with you that they have more influence now, but I don't see how they have more influence than men.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every political decision is motivated by women. It's not really motivated by men anymore. Like we've kind of taken control of not only society, but the media as well. And so I don't know, I'll take like a very small example. Like I can go online and say, I hate all men. We should kill all men. I don't like men. And women would be, yay, like kill all men. If a man did that, if he went online and said, I hate women and I'll like kill all women, you know, misogynist, canceled. You can't say that. That's terrible. So
He would probably also be deplatformed and canceled and all that stuff. Like, but you hear it all the time from women, like, "Oh, we don't need men. Society doesn't need men. We're better off without men." And that's obviously untrue. That's an idiotic statement. Doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure society would fall apart within like 24 hours if there was no men for infrastructure, for jobs, for protection, for all these types of things. And so that is a privilege that women have, that they can just shit on men all of the time. And the good men that I know don't do that and wouldn't do that. Of course, there are some men who do that. Of course, there are some fucking shitheads out there who just shit on women all day. And I think that's horrible and bad because most of the time, those men just want attention. But they want attention from women and they haven't gotten it in their whole life. So there's other ways, skills, factors, skill sets, personal hygiene, all this stuff that they could do that they become more attractive to a female that they want. But instead they resort to the lowest common denominator, which is shitting on them. And women do that all the time as well. And it's more celebrated in society when they do it because other women, again, will cheer them, like Savanna is saying. But if men do it, which they should not do it, are not seen in that same sort of light.
There's not like a balance there, if that makes sense. So they're able to influence media in a different way than men are. That's a very like micro example, but I felt like that was kind of necessary for the argument.
Okay, I do think that's a little different from having political influence because there are much more men in, like, for example, like the Supreme Court is like men. So I do think that's a little different from like being able to speak openly about your opinion on media. Like that's something else. And I also think that women aren't exempt from hate as well.
No, I
Like,
agree.
of
But
course
they
you
can say
understand.
things. They can say very misandrist things and not get and completely get away with it. But men cannot lean on the misogynist side. And I don't think
know that
either
that's
are
true,
right.
though.
Yeah, it is. I've seen so many misandrists and they get away with it all the time.
Oh, I mean, I don't know that men can't get away with misogyny.
No, they can't get away with misogyny.
Oh no, see ya.
But what makes you say that?
I mean, look at every political figure who just says, like, I don't think women should be able to kill off their offspring. And they're immediately misogynist for saying that that's wrong, right? Like, I mean, that term gets thrown around all the time. If you say very basic statements, like, I don't think you should kill your babies, you're a misogynist as a man.
That is a more complicated issue. And I doubt that people calling them misogynists are saying it just because, like, well, it has nothing to do with them being a man so much as it has to do with like women being able to have the choice with their own bodies.
I think it has a lot to do with them being a man because if I don't know, let's say like a man gets a woman pregnant, she says, I want an abortion. He says, no, I don't want you to do that. He's seen as a misogynist that he's not giving the woman the choice in order to do that. I completely disagree with that narrative. I would say that that is a privilege that women have over men, that she could go decide to have an abortion without him even being present, without him deciding that's the father of that child.
By like your reasoning, then, if you spoke out and said like women shouldn't be able to have abortions, then you feel like you wouldn't get backlash because you're a
Oh, I
woman?
definitely would because I'm a conservative woman. Yeah, I mean, I do all the time. But I mean, I'm saying it happens to men as well. Like men cannot speak on women's issues without being called misogynist or canceled or whatever terms that you want to use. That's just kind of like the media privilege, I would say. But back to like my original claim, I know that we were talking about like political influence. They have far more political influence than men. I think we've seen that in the past 100 years. Feminism was the quickest, most revolutionary, sweeping movement that came across the United States and that changed our country forever. And that was by far a privilege of women.
I don't think it's a privilege only because they're women, though. I do think that has something to do with like being in America, and then we're taught that like in American history there is like a revolution, and that wasn't just like a woman decision, obviously. So I feel like the spirit of like revolution and to like fight for what you believe in is just something that's, about American citizens, not so much about being a woman.
The issue with, I mean, if we're going back to feminism, the issue with that is that most women didn't want it. Yet this very small group of radical revolutionaries was able to change it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could go into there, but I think it started with that, and now it's moved into our society today.
Let's move on to
Okay,
this
so your
dominatrix.
claim is that there's no form of sexual promiscuity that's empowering.
No form of sexual promiscuity is empowering from the dominatrix. Here we go. Maybe this will be actually interesting.
And my argument is that personally, I think empowerment is subjective from person to person. We all have different things that like we consider to be empowering. And I feel like the real thing is like it's a person's choice, any person, woman or man, to determine like what is empowering to you and like whether that be.
Certainly the theme of this whole show has been choice. It's 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 choice. Of course it's fucking choice. Of course it is. But what's better than another, right? Everyone has choice, but what is more better for you, for society, for the flourishing of society, for the flourishing of yourself, for your happiness, for your fulfillment? What is better? Not always that you have choice. Choice is great. Everyone has choice. But what is better for you is the question we should be asking.
The right to choose like what sexual preferences you have, whether you are very sexual or not. And I don't think it should be, determined by that.
I don't really see how that refutes my claim, I guess. I don't understand how sexual promiscuity is empowering. That's kind of my point.
Well, I feel like it's subjective from person to person. So like, I think it gives women, like we're talking about women specifically, I feel like it gives women the right to explore that, to see like, I feel like being promiscuous and.
Yeah, well, it's led to girls when they turn 18 getting an OnlyFans. And that's not good for society. It's not good to teach young girls that their only value is that they show off their body. The only way they can be rich and famous and travel the world is that they show the entire world their body. Why is that empowering? Empowering for fucking who? When we should be giving them, we should be teaching them that their value is way beyond that. Their value is mother, children, a career, using their God-given abilities, not just like their body to like make some fucking money, but everything is like Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue and Sophie Rain are like celebrated on the internet as some sort of fucking heroes because they make so much fucking money, but they're doing something that's not actually conducive to their flourishing or society's flourishing, because you get more and more and more fringe. And then again, you have right when you turn 18, I'm going to join OnlyFans. And then you have OnlyFans models saying that this is like hard work. It's like, no, it's fucking not. It might be hard on you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because you're doing something that you're not really inclined to do. You're kind of forcing yourself to do it because you think this is the only thing you can do and the only value you have, which is extremely sad and heartbreaking. But it's not empowering. It certainly is not empowering.
And exploring that lets you know too of like what you're into. I think sexualization too is very subjective also, and you don't really know what you're into unless you try something.
So this woman's like, everything's subjective and empowering and everything is just like up in the air and it's like there's no stance and like you should just try everything because you never know what you like.
General too, when it comes to even like sex work, I don't think there's anything wrong with women fully taking on sex work and that makes them any less empowered.
Yeah, I think it's significantly devalued women. It's actually sexualized them more. And it seems like feminists complain all the time that men sexualize them, but they're the ones supplying it. They're literally here. It's like giving cupcakes to a toddler. You're just giving it out for free. So I don't see how any form of that would be empowering. And I think that that's where the sexual revolution went wrong as well, is they thought that the awareness about it was going to actually change things. And it made things worse because women were going out and just handing it out for free.
So you're saying that there should be some sort of like, it shouldn't be for free, that it should be.
I'm coming from a Christian perspective, so I think that you should have sex with your husband, and that's pretty much it. The problem with our society is we're in a society of OnlyFans. Instagram is basically everyone is half naked. Women they basically give it out for free. And when I say for free, I mean they're not married. They have no commitment to these men. And I don't think that's empowering for women, nor is it beneficial to them. I think it makes them more depressed, more suicidal, and less confident.
See, I would disagree because I feel like if anything, it empowers women more because like, and I'm just gonna bring up like I guess the topic of like from a dominatrix perspective. And obviously that is like a very skewed perspective on things, but like I feel like if anything for me personally, it's made me more empowered to be able to do something like that and to be able to have that power over man.
Yeah, I think it's a fake empowerment.
Now, why do you feel like it's a fake empowerment?
I don't think that it gives.
Well, maybe for her it is because she's the one dominating men. But for the majority of women who are in sex work, they're selling their whatever to men. And that's not empowering whatsoever. That's not valuable at all. That's not expressing like your true intrinsic nature of how deeply valuable you are. You're just giving, what you think you can away because this is the only thing you think you have to offer, which is obviously not true. But for a dominatrix, of course she feels empowered. She's beating the shit out of dudes who pay her money to do so, which is fucking whatever. Like, do whatever you want.
Women confidence, it significantly increases their chance for divorce. It significantly increases their chance for infertility. So at the end of the day, there's no benefit towards women if they want to get in a long-term relationship. A lot of these women that are super sexually promiscuous, maybe in their early 20s, and then they get in their 30s and they can't find a man because men don't see them as valuable because they've just been handing it out for free their entire lives. And then also, like I said, it does increase your chance for divorce as well. So you won't have as much of a successful committed relationship if you want that in the future.
I guess. I mean, like I've been divorced before off of my own choice. And I've been in my last relationship in my marriage. I had started OnlyFans, did OnlyFans. He was completely okay with it. I chose to leave that marriage because it wasn't for me. And now I'm in a new relationship and he's very proud and pushes me to do whatever I want, pushes me to be whoever I want. And I don't think that really affects relationships as long as you.
That's a fucking weak dude. Straight up. That's a weak dude who's proud. Proud? I don't know about that, man. Maybe he tolerates it. You don't actually know how he feels for real. Probably not. But he's proud. Tough.
Have like a clear understanding and like clear boundaries too of what's okay and what's not okay.
I think it does. I don't say this disrespectfully, but that is a very weak man. And I think that any like masculine true man would agree with me. Men who are masculine, like they want one woman and they don't want that woman to be sexually promiscuous and they don't want other men to see their woman all over the internet and be masturbating to their woman. So I would say that that is a weak man and most men do not want that and that relationship is not going to be successful long term. And I don't say that disrespectfully, but just from a statistic perspective, that's what I would say.
Okay. I mean, I obviously disagree with you on like that being him being a weak man because he's okay with this and because he allows this and supports me doing whatever I want. I think too, it's obviously different because from like a relationship standpoint, we have a lot of like talk and openness about things. And like, obviously too, because I do what I do, I have to be okay with things on his end of like, not being as like judgmental for things or being okay with certain things.
So do you have an open relationship if you don't mind me asking?
I wouldn't say it's open, but like we have explored other things that like he's been more into that.
It's fucking open. It's wide open.
I wasn't originally okay with or had tried before or had even like considered. And after trying them, I realized like, okay, yeah, there are things that like I'm into that I wasn't aware of. So it's not like fully open, but we have explored.
And you find that empowering?
I do personally, because my own opinion, I get turned on seeing my man with another woman. And that's just, I never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that before exploring that. And I think it was the chance to explore it and like the openness with promiscuity to explore.
So here's what actually happened. She got with this dude. This dude knew she was doing all this sex work and OnlyFans, and he knew he could finagle his way into, oh, well, I'm going to get with her. I'm going to be in a relationship with her, but I'm also going to bang a bunch of other chicks. Because he didn't allow her to start an OnlyFans or do sex work when previously she wasn't doing it. She was already doing it. Then he got with her and like in the back of his mind was probably like, ooh, I can make all this work. I'm going to have sex with all these other chicks. My girl will watch. Maybe she'll do whatever she does, but she was already doing that before. So it doesn't matter. And she's not really my chick because I'm doing all this other stuff with all these other girls and kind of get the best of all the worlds. So maybe that's his thought process behind there. Don't know him, obviously. Don't know actually what he thinks, but He's obviously getting to have sex with a bunch of different chicks because he wants to, and quote unquote, his girl thinks it's hot, which whatever, people can be into whatever they want. But that's maybe the sort of the motivation for him because she was already doing the sex work before he got with her.
For it, that I was like, wow, I actually am sexually aroused by something like this.
Yeah, again, I think that's a fake form of empowerment. And my whole claim is that society is grooming really young women to go into OnlyFans and to be sexually promiscuous and to sleep with whoever, to basically be like men and just sleep around and have no emotion to that. We're completely differently wired than men. There's a different chemical reaction that releases when you have sex with a man. So men can just like sleep around and have sex like rabbits. Women are a little bit different. They're more emotionally connected. So I think it's actually damaging women internally more than they think. But they're kind of able to just switch their emotions off and go through it. And then later in life, they end up regretting it.
True, and I can agree with you on that aspect that I do think it is very damaging for girls who are just turning 18 to get into these like OnlyFans spaces without really considering everything that goes into it. And considering like the negatives and the positives that do come with it and without exploring other avenues. When I turned 18, I started doing like nude modeling online. And so that's also from a perspective of like, I've been there and I do wish I would have.
Yeah, it should not be allowed. It should absolutely 100% not be allowed for any of that to be possible. There's too much sex trafficking and child pornography and horrible people doing horrible shit to young people that we shouldn't be encouraging young people, 18-year-olds, to get on OnlyFans right away when so many of young people that like in the world being sex trafficked or don't have a fucking choice. And it's absolute torture and hell that they're in and they're slaves. And then we have a society where it's celebrated and encouraged to do OnlyFans at 18. That's fucking gross. That's gross.
Tried something different or send my other avenues, but I'm also very grateful for those experiences because it has led me to a life that I live, that I enjoy, that I get to wake up every day and do whatever the hell I want because of platforms like OnlyFans. And obviously it's different for everybody, but in the sense of like, I do feel like it is empowering for me to be able to do something like that. And I am a very sexual person. I have other friends who are in like the sex worker space and who are very sexual people. And
oh, you had to get one more commercial in, didn't you? Yeah, motherfucker.
It empowers them. Sure, there's other people that are going to come into this space or who are going to sleep around just to try things, even on like a not work side. And it's not going to be for them. They're not going to feel the greatest. But that's where I feel like empowerment is so subjective because one thing that can empower one person will, and it might not empower another person the same way.
I think it's extremely sad that you feel like that's the only way that you can wake up and do whatever you want and have freedom.
No, totally. There's plenty of other ways that I can have freedom without doing that.
But that's how it's sold to young women on social. Like if you want to travel and you want to have a big house and cool cars and a lot of social media followings and all of these external metrics that don't actually make us fulfilled or happy, the only way you can possibly do that is via OnlyFans, which is fucking untrue. And it's a bad standard to set for everyone that's coming up that's a young person.
But I enjoy what I do. I enjoy
But going back to what you said about when you turned 18, you wish you wouldn't have done it. And you said you think it's damaging for women to go in it that young. So why does it change, I don't know, 10 years later when you're 28?
I guess because I've explored it a little bit more. I've really like considered the pros and the cons of it. I've tried other things. I've tried other like avenues as far as like work goes. And this is just what I feel like is, I don't know, I have fun doing it.
I mean, yeah, and then that's your preference, I guess. But my whole point being that I don't believe it's empowering. I think just saying when you're older and at the end of your life, I don't think that you're going to look back and say, wow, I'm so glad. I wish I would have slept with more men, or I wish I would have been more sexually promiscuous. Pretty much the majority of women regret sleeping around and regret being sexually promiscuous or having abortions or sleeping with multiple men before they got married because it affected their marriages and it affected them later in life.
I would disagree with that because of the openness I've been able to have with like being sexual and like trying new things, I've been able to figure out like things that I don't like or that I do like. And I think that's also important.
But you don't think you can do that with one person?
You don't have to sleep with the entire world to figure that out. You know what I mean?
You can, but not everybody, like everybody's so different when it comes to like hooking up with somebody or like having an experience with somebody, that it's just a very different feeling, I guess.
I can see it. I just think that if you're already saying that young women going to the industry at 18 is damaging, then it's damaging for every woman, no matter the age.
I don't agree that it's damaging regardless of the age. I do see a lot of your perspective with things though. And I do agree with some points on it, but obviously not all, because at the end of the day, I feel like the main thing is, if we're talking about empowerment is different to like each person. So that's more of my argument with it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Or do you feel like you found common ground with some people, or do you feel like
I think a lot of them agree with me. They just don't want to say that they agree with me, or they don't like the way that I said it. And so they want it to be said differently. I think there was a lot of straw mans, just like pulling things out that I didn't say, but they came in with their own presuppositions, maybe after watching my content or just seeing things online. But overall, I think it was productive.
did you change anyone's mind, do you feel like, or do you feel like anybody changed your mind on anything?
Yeah, two of the girls definitely, I changed their mind a little bit, or just made them think like, oh, maybe my history book in high school wasn't completely correct about these things and I should look into it more. I think I got them thinking. My perspective was not changed on anything. I stand pretty strong on my convictions.
All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the first episode of Common.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. That was okay, decent, not amazing. But I did just spend the last 2 hours and 5 minutes watching it and streaming it. So I guess whatever, but it was okay. Some of the women didn't really come with like the strongest convictions. Savannah does, but I think she also just says shit because it gets her publicity and gets her clicks and gets her rage bait on social. But it is what it is. Again, thanks for joining me on the stream. Appreciate it. I go live like this a couple times a week. So follow and subscribe wherever you're watching this right now. And make sure you check out my podcast, which is called Something for Everybody, on all major podcast platforms. And I will see you when I see you. Cheers.